My mind races back to those 3 days in this tent during which I and my colleagues here sat patiently, pensively and attentively, listening to the impassioned pleas from the bar so commandingly assembled. Not that this was the first time I was finding myself having to endure the perorations of counsel. Some of them experienced jurists and others not so senior. But it was such a moment when the basics of a basic structure were basically spewed unto us with such aplomb hitherto unseen, save during the hearing of a presidential election petition. What we were told, however, I also remember that it was on such occasion that we were reminded that our colleagues at the High Court and Court of Appeal, the colleagues at the High Court had built a foundation, and those ones at the Court of Appeal had constructed a wall upon it, and that now it was our turn to paint that wall. But we were not told with which colors we were to undertake this alluring task. I also remember being urged to roar like lions in the wild as we asserted the supremacy of the Constitution. But who could fault counsel for invoking our hallowed symbol of nationhood? Yet at that moment I could not help but cringe, for the sound of a roar of a lion in the wild stirred in me images of the terrifying language so beloved by our politicians, the language of tsunamis, of earthquakes, volcanoes, war and thunder. And that is why I cringed. And then I remembered that not so long ago this court had in one of its judgments, and really in true oracular rendition, or so I thought, decreed as follows. But it does appear, as my colleague Judge Lenaola here apprehended, counsel do not read the judgments of this court, and now I am forced to read this decree to you so that even if you don't reread it, it shall be acted in your mind. And this is what this court said at that time. What of the argument that this court should not subvert the will of the people? This court is one of those to whom that sovereign power has been delegated under Article 13C of the same Constitution. All its powers, including that of invalidating the presidential election, is not self-given nor forcefully taken, but is donated by the people of Kenya. To dishonestly exercise that delegated power and to close our eyes to constitutional violations would be a dereliction of duty, and we refuse to accept the invitation to do so, however popular that invitation may seem. Therefore, however burdensome, let the majesty of the Constitution reverberate across the lengths and breadths of our motherland. Let it bubble from our rivers and oceans. Let it boomerang from our hills and mountains. Let it serenade our households from the trees. Let it sprout from our institutions of learning. Let it toll from our sanctums of prayer. And to those who bear the responsibility of leadership, let it be a constant irritant. So I say no more. Thank you, Chief Justice.
Thank you very much, Justice Wanjala, for that rendition. I now request the Honorable Mr. Justice Ibrahim Mohammed to deliver his opinion.